Hello, my name is Luby, and welcome back to Katawa Shoujo. Last time I left you on a little bit of a cliffhanger, and if I'm pretty sure this rain we're about to go in is about to make a ton of noise. So, yep. Hurry, Lily. I'm moving as fast as I can. I can barely make out Lily's voice over the deafening pounding of the rain. Yeah, it really is really loud. I really hope you can hear me. Even though I dislike pulling her around, the situation calls for it. I turn forward, my free hands over my head in a futile attempt to keep at least my hair dry. My vision seems to be in grayscale. This really is rotten weather for summer, and the last kind of climate I'd want for a date. A pity. I'd even checked the weather forecast beforehand, one of the very few times I've ever done so, only for it to say that Sunday afternoon would be fine. Looking to Lily, her shoulders are by now completely drenched, with her right hand holding tightly to mine and her left gripping her retracted cane. This horrid downpour came on just as we were between our destination and Yamaku, so we decided to try rushing the rest of the distance rather than doubling back. Entirely unused to running this fast, Lily's using all her concentration just to avoid tripping over. Hisao, do you know where we're going? Even she's reduced to shouting to try and be heard over the combined noise of the wind and the rain. The rest of my voice is completely drowned out by an even heavier burst of rain. The what? The Shanghai! How far is it? It shouldn't be far now. It doesn't take long before I call out to her once again. It looks like we're safe. It's just up ahead. I quickly pull up to a stop just in front of the familiar exterior, the lantern outside still giving off its reliable glow, and waiting for Lily to catch her breath before going in. Ladies first. The tiny bell inside rings out when I hold the door open for her, a smile and a polite nod being my reward before entering myself. Ah, finally, the loud-ass rain has stopped. As I step in behind her and wipe my feet, only a quick glance is necessary to notice the distinct lack of activity. The Shanghai doesn't seem to get much in the way of patronage, and today is no different. Only a couple of tables are occupied. Summoned by the bells ringing, a most expected person comes to greet us. 3, 2, 1, Yuko. Welcome to the Shanghai. Yuko looks chipper today. Trying to predict her moods is pretty hard, but it's a nice change from the norm. Hello, Yuko. Hey. Good afternoon, you two. She takes a deep bow, somewhat taken aback as she rights herself again and gets a better look at us. What happened to you? You both look... Her eyes drift toward the glass of the door behind us. Oh dear. We're inside now, at least. I think that's the most important thing. It's nice and cozy. You're lucky to be working inside today. It has been nice and quiet. I like days like this. Oh, wait, sorry. Is there anything you'd like? French vanilla tea, please. I'll have the same. Right, coming right up. She quickly skitters off with a determined look on her face, trying very hard not to forget our orders. If nothing else, she is at least dedicated to her jobs. I lead Lily to an empty seat before the two of us settle down. As usual, there's a large difference between my exhausted flopping down into my seat and Lily's delicate sliding into hers, her cane set beside her. For a while, I just idly watched the rain falling outside. The occasional person runs down the street trying to stay as dry as possible, hands often tightly gripping a rain-soaked umbrella. Lily sits just as quietly as I, her eyes closed as she intently listens to all that's happening. It's a comfortable, relaxing silence that exists between us. Just the type that we'd so often shared together in the past months. For Lily, at least. I can't help replaying the words of her sister in my mind, at times contrasting them to both our time spent together since I entered Yamaku, and to the way we've been since we started dating. No matter how much I try, I can't work Lily out. It's as if the harder I try to second-guess her emotions and her potential decision, the more difficult it becomes to reach a clear conclusion. It makes me doubt whether I ever really understood her. In the end, I'm gonna have to ask, even though I very much want to avoid doing so. You seem quiet today, Hisao. Really? You seem so enthusiastic about taking me out on a date. I'd assumed you had something specific you wanted to do. No, not really. Just wanted to spend time with you. Is that so? Fine. There was one thing. A little grin finds its way onto Lily's face, her knowing full well that she's bested me. It makes what I want to say all the more awkward. Yeah, but eventually you're just gonna have to ask, and looks like this is it. By the way, if you don't remember what happened last episode, There is a chance that Lily might move back to Scotland with her parents. She has been invited back, and we don't know whether she's going to stay or leave. That's your little recap. It was just Akira and I were talking.
Oh,
What's that tone?
you two do seem to get on well, don't you?
Well, I do think she's a pretty cool person to talk with. It'd be nice if any of the teachers were anything like her.
Cool.
For a moment I try to place her tone of voice, my mouth curling into a smirk as I realize it. You're not jealous, are you?
I'm not jealous.
After teasing me over such a thing on our first date, I don't feel too bad having a little laugh at her expense this time around. As we settle down, though, it's only a matter of distraction from the real point of why I brought Lily here. Don't worry, it was mostly just everyday stuff. That said, there was something Akira mentioned that I wanted to talk to you about. Okay, here we go. Breathe in, breathe out, Hisao. You got this. When you went to see your family in Inverness a while back, she said,
Akira told you about my family's summons, hasn't she?
Seconds tick by while I try to read Lily's face, an odd mixture of feelings written on it. She seems annoyed, but also somewhat confused.
Here.
Yuko tentatively slides our drinks onto the table, her presence oddly small. As she walks back to the counter after a quick, polite nod, I realize the air between me and Lily is thick, and our expressions are both somewhat pensive.
Even though she says I should lead my own life, she still interferes at the worst times.
I don't think you should blame Akira here. She's just looking out for you, and it's not like I can't understand her concern over this. Lily's irritation gives way to an awkward and largely unsuccessful attempt to mask her feelings. She really doesn't deal well with being cornered on personal topics.
I know, but I just wanted some more time. I knew you'd have figured it out eventually, but...
You were intentionally hiding this from me? For how long were you planning to do that?
As I said, I simply wanted more time to think it through. I wanted to be sure of my decision before telling you.
What did you decide to do in the end? I know what I want you to say, but an awful feeling refuses to leave my gut.
My family does dearly want me to return to them, and Akira will be going as well. I could still teach as a career, whether it be here or there.
So, you're going? How long have you known? I already know you were asked when you first went to Scotland about a month ago.
Some time.
My frustration very nearly boils over. The fact that she's done this affects me more than it should. For her to not only be leaving, but to have been actively hiding her own plans from me, and after seeming for so long to be the one solid pillar of support and reliability I could depend on, it feels as the foundation underneath me is suddenly shifting drastically, much faster than I can adapt to. Perhaps this isn't so much frustration as sheer unease. Lily,
I'm sorry, I wanted to think this through completely. I wasn't trying to take advantage of you, please.
I know, Lily, I know. This is just really sudden. I guess this means that once you go, we'll be breaking up? Fuck. No! 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 No, God. No, I have become too attached to this character. I have become too attached to this game. You can't do this to me. You cannot just like let her leave, okay? That will not be happening. And if it does, I don't know. I'm not gonna do the other routes if that does. If that does happen. I'm kidding, by the way, but you know, I've just become too attached to Lily and this game for her to just leave, you know? I just don't want Hisao and Lily to break up. Really bad. Okay. For one of the few times I've seen since I met her, she's genuinely lost for words. She doesn't look surprised, no doubt because of the fact that dawned on her once she became sure of her decision, but rather, she appears genuinely unsure of how to deal with the situation now it's in front of her.
We could try pursuing a long-distance relationship. They're getting more and more common these days, after all.
Even as she says it, the tone of her voice gives away that she doesn't truly believe what she's saying. Lily is far too old-fashioned to be able to cope with a relationship without any kind of physical presence, and even I am to an extent. Plus, she is just not good with computers. All we would ever be to each other would be a voice from the other side of the world. In the end, trying to rationalize everything is futile. Any attempts to try and connect what's happening with the future or past just seems to get more difficult the more I concentrate. Those quiet moments when you just walk side by side, the precious time we spent with Hanako and Akira, the casual chatter we had during lunchtimes, the times we made love. Yeah, the confessions of our feelings to each other. All pointless. All just a fleeting moment in our young lives. We're just two children pretending to be adults, aren't we? A long, long silence hangs in the air between us. The noise of the other patrons drinking and talking only makes the situation feel more strange and disconnected. Lily's face remains low, her dejected expression clouding it.
I'm sorry, Hisao.
A simple apology and no more. She's left entirely without any further response or comment. With a long sigh, I gather what's left of my thoughts and ask the final question I have for her. When will you be going?
I'll be leaving with Akira, so it'll be a little less than a week.
The beginning of summer holidays?
Just a little afterward, yes.
Her tone is unusually slow and steady, her apologetic and depressed mood all the more written to her face as she tries to hide it in her voice. In the end, I can't even keep my promise of going to Tanabata with her before she leaves. I look down, seeing my face reflected in the, by now, lukewarm cup of neglected tea sitting in front of me. I really thought I'd left this kind of expression behind. For a while, I just stared down into the still surface, trying to sort through my emotions to get at what course of action I should take, whether it be right now or in the future. But just as before, the effort is wasted. I glance up to see Lily gently sipping her cool tea without complaint, her face drawn and shoulders slumped. She looks to be deep in thought too, a strangely cold atmosphere coming between us as we isolate ourselves to mull things over. Even as Lily's cup slowly empties, mine remains untouched. It's a long time before I notice the rain dying down outside and the few other patrons of the Shanghai having left. Oh God. The chill of the rapidly darkening evening permeates the dormitory hallways. While trudging down the corridor to my room, I see an unwelcome movement from up ahead. Sure enough, the opening of the door opposite mine heralds the arrival of a bespectacled Kenji. You know, Kenji, usually I'd be like really mad or really happy that you're appearing, but like right now, it's just not the time, you know? I can't, it's not the time.
Hey man, what's... Whoa, dude, you look awful, I think. You okay?
He really has a knack for making any situation better. I don't really want to go into it. It's late.
Okay, that's cool. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm, here.
I look at him for a moment before surrendering my stern front and awkwardly stretching the back of my neck, embarrassed by my standoffish response to him. Thanks, Kenji.
Hey, it's cool. That's what friends are for, right?
Yeah, you're right. See ya. Okay, well that was surprisingly nice. Thank you, Kenji. I open the door to my own dorm room and close it behind me as he quickly waves me off. The solid thud the door makes against the doorframe sounds out a final call for the life I've led since coming to Yamaku. I just stand in my darkened room, fruitlessly attempting to work out what I should do from this point onwards. Just what should I do? Okay, well damn, this is sad. Oh. Yeah, this is miserable. Damn. I'm eating an oatmeal cream pie on the side here. It helps. Its flavor, really helps with the feelings. I'm eating my feelings out right now, okay? As class ends, I simply rest my head on my hand and stare out of the window to pass the time. It's been a few days since Lily told me her plans. I haven't been to our ordinary lunchtime haunt since then. Not there would be much point. Hanako's been busy with the newspaper club since she's newly joined, and has even begun talking in class with Naomi every now and then. Even Lily, aside from the fact that a meeting between us would have been awkward in any case, has been run off her feet with class representative duties as the summer holidays approach. And now, they're just about here. With the end of today's bell, the summer holidays will have begun. I suppose that all I'll end up doing will be visiting my parents for the duration and lazing about my old home, now that my previous plans are entirely askew. Meanwhile, Akira and Lily will be en route to Scotland to live out the rest of their lives there. No matter how hard I try to rationalize the idea that once the summer holiday begin, my life will return to the way it was, it simply refuses to happen. Everyone's moving on with their lives. Lily's rejoining her family, Akira's moving up in her father's business, Hanako's gaining new friends and hobbies, and even Yuko's moving ahead with her university aspirations. Even I'm moving forward in the end. But the grades have gone so far in Yamaku, much less after such a rocky beginning, the path to get into teaching science as a career seems straightforward. I suppose I should at least be happy about that much, but it doesn't really seem to help. Now I'm forced to do the Misha voice when I'm sad. Okay, let me just chug this water.
Hee-chan!
I quickly stopped my ruminating and turned to face the bubbly voice beside me, putting on the most upbeat expression I can muster. As expected, Shizune stands flanking her. I have a sneaking suspicion that they want something from me. Hey Misha, Shizune, what's up?
Well, Shishan and I were thinking, since we're just two poor little girls that need help with all the work you've been given just before the holidays begin.
Sure, I can help.
But Hee-chan, we're really What?
I think I broke Misha. Even Shizune raises an eyebrow at her accomplice's shuddering stop in her tracks.
So, you'll help us, Hee-chan?
I just said I would, didn't I? It's hardly like I have anything better to do. Maybe helping them with their work will help take my mind off the situation. Misha seems genuinely ecstatic with my response, but Shizune's expression is clouded and difficult to read. I find myself quickly averting my eyes from her own, as it almost looks like a face of pity. No doubt it must just be my imagination. Yeah, considering that, she's not close with Lily, but close enough to, know what's happening with her. I guess Shizune would know that Lily is leaving to Scotland. This is hardly the first time I've been in the student council room. Indeed, I've found myself down here often, either to help Lily with class rep work or to sort out one thing or another with the student council itself. Now, though, it's quite a different place. Papers and folders are strewn across every table in the room, only a solitary little black laptop atop a single desk sticking out from the mess. It looks positively ancient, and I guess it has been valiantly serving its task in archiving information for years and years. So what needs doing? This looks like a lot to do. ... Shizune's expression becomes determined as she signs. It's a worrying look.
Everything, Hee-chan!
My worry was well placed. Everything, you say? ...
What's left on the desk is what needs to be done. It all needs to be digitally recorded, which is what the laptop is for.
And I'm guessing that I'll be the one doing this. ...
Shishan said she saw you at the computers in the library a few days ago, and thinks you seem to be really good with them.
Good with computers. I can touch type, I guess, but it still seems like an overestimation of my skills. I was just typing up homework. Wait, Shizune was watching me do that? ...
One must know their allies before they can know their enemies, of course. Wow, that's pretty wise.
For once, it's not very hard to work out who said what. Nonetheless, it doesn't seem worth fighting over. Sitting at a computer doing some typing hardly seems onerous as far as tasks to help Shizune and Misha go. ...
Besides, it'll help to take your mind off things.
Take my mind off things? Take my mind off what things? Misha's face goes blank as she translates this for Shizune, though the latter's response is only to glance away towards the window after briefly signing. ... Misha's face quickly returns to a smile as she translates back. She was confused, I guess, but Shizune is harder to pin down.
I was just thinking, you may like to get your mind off the exams, of course.
Oh, that was not Misha's voice. That was just me, struggling with my throat. Let me just take some more water. Either way, we may as well get into it sooner rather than later. I'll go along with you.
That's the spirit, Hee-chan.
And that's the 5th spreadsheet compiled and saved. Time for the next month's. After a little bit of fussing around, we all managed to get a bit more organized. Shizune's been gathering up the loose sheets and, thankfully, sorting them into a neat pile next to me. Meanwhile, Misha's been handling the manual writing work, her girly pink pen leaving its unmistakable mark on paper after paper. Once I got myself into a rhythm, this really wasn't so bad. Shizune and Misha also seem to be in the swing of things, wordlessly communicating as they go about their business with fervor. I periodically glance at the sheet beside the laptop, apparently a list of student names and matching addresses, as I dutifully enter the data written on it. I don't pay a lot of attention to what I'm typing in until I reach about midway down the page. Hakamichi, Class 3-3. Huh, her family's home is in Saitama. My idle curiosity is ended abruptly as 3 light taps can be heard rapping on the door. Misha quickly jumps and leaps over to check who it is, tapping Shizune's shoulder on the way past to let her companion know what's happening.
Ah, you're here!
Who is it? With a slight pause to enter Shizune's data into the file along with all the others, I look up to check who's at the door. Okay, hi, Lily. How you doing? Lily? After giving a cursory nod to Misha in greeting, she perks her head up in her trademark manner. Okay. Is that Hisao? She's pretty darn good at working out my voice from the smallest of phrases nowadays. Yeah, it's me. Hey. The atmosphere feels slightly awkward as she bows. Neither of us knows quite how intimate we should be around each other, given she's leaving in just a matter of hours. A matter of hours? Oh. Well, that sucks. This is a fact that, thankfully, neither the oblivious Misha nor the hard-working Shizune pick up on. So, you got work to do as well? Unfortunately. I arrived as soon as I could, but my class held me up with a surprise farewell party, and I had to get changed. I glanced down at the laptop's clock. It's pretty much the end of lunchtime, so I'm guessing Lily managed to wrangle the last period off as well. I take it Shizune is here as well. ...
Of course! And I've been here during all of lunchtime as well.
That last comment was really not needed. Shizune is baiting Lily into another argument, I can feel it. I'm sorry I can't be as hard-working as you, Shizune. I'll endeavor to hire more lackeys to do my work in the future, I assure you. And Lily just took the bait, escalating things further.
But aren't you the one always outsourcing work to your classmates?
The difference is that they choose to help, unlike your tyrannical grip on your own class.
Tyranny works! Even if we did things differently, we still got the same results, right?
This is school, not a police state. You'll have to remind me when you were appointed class monarch, I'm afraid.
You have to seize power. It's not as good if it's just handed to you. But I guess you wouldn't really understand that, right? You'll also have to remind me when monarchs were elected into the positions.
Lily positively bristles at this. Shizune's 2-hit combo forces her onto defense. Yet for all your vaunted power, you cannot get one person to help you without forcing him.
But Hisao volunteered! He's such a hard worker, he's doing this instead of meaningless socialization, right?
Is that so, Hisao? Ah, this is bad. I really ended up between a rock and a hard place. As much as it pained me to do this, the truth has at least a chance of stopping this argument here and now. It's okay, Lily. They didn't harass me to come or anything. Lily gives me a disapproving grimace, silently radiating her strong feelings of displeasure in my general direction. She can be quite scary when she wants to be, though thankfully that isn't often.
Hee-chan, you make that sound like it's a regular occurrence. Yeah, it's occurrence!
It isn't? In the end, it doesn't matter so long as everything's getting done at a good pace. Let's just get this work over with so we can go home. Shizune snorts derisively. I snorted and things did not go well. And gets back to marking off the sheet in front of her, while Lily sighs and finds her way along the room with her hand following the filing cabinets lined against the wall. This would mark the only time I've managed to successfully defuse one of these situations, but the grudging ceasefire built around mutual fear and respect makes us feel more like the Cold War than any real peace. I can't take all the credit though. Lily's leaving has surely affected Shizune to some extent to make her give up so easily. Moments before getting back to my work, I noticed Lily reaching up to grab something from above a filing cabinet. I almost offered to help, but her height gives her ample ability to take it down safely. Once she sets the strangely shaped device on the desk beside me, I realize just what it is, sort of. She takes the old green covering off and sits down. Is it the music box? No. At first glance, it seems to be an old metallic blue typewriter, but it doesn't take me long to realize it's far from ordinary. It has far fewer keys than expected, and those that it has to show no lettering printed on them. Only the shadows cast with the tiny braille dots on them give a hint of the thing's purpose. Blind typewriter?
Oh, this? Well, you're not far off. It's normally called a Perkins Brailler, but it's basically a typewriter for the blind, yes. It presses braille onto the page rather than text, which is why it has fewer keys.
Huh, that's really neat. She gives a light-hearted grin at my curiosity over it. I have to admit that it appeals to my sense of novelty. Without further ado, we each get back to our allotted tasks. The loud clunking of the mechanics in Lily's brailler and the tapping of the laptop's old and weary keyboard quickly fill the room. It's a nice atmosphere, really. Everyone knows what they have to do, and Lily and I get to sit beside each other and exchange the odd word as we work away. Nostalgic. That's what it feels like. It's pleasant, but just slightly stained with the knowledge that our time together is nearing its end.
Excuse me, Misha.
To properly address her, Misha bounces over from the filing cabinet she's peering into, in spite of Lily's lack of sight. For a moment, I think it's strange, but then realize it's exactly what I do.
What's up?
Could you ask Shizune where the attendance records for Class 3-2 are? I think they've been moved.
Okie dokie.
And with that, she flitters off to Shizune, who's working at a table behind us. Lily's familiarity with the council room and the efficiency with which she works reminds me that she, Misha, and Shizune used to all work together in the student council. Maybe this is a fitting end for her stay in Yamaku, working away like she used to, surrounded by those she loves and, at least, liked. I look up, getting taken off guard by Shizune sorting through a drawer, rather than Misha. Sure enough, she plucks out a manila folder and entirely blank save. Sure enough, she plucks out a manila folder, entirely blank, save for the just barely visible bumps on its front, and holds it in front of Lily. Lily's hand flits over to it to check what it is, her fingers feeling out the dots of braille and confirming it's what she asked for.
Thank you, Misha.
No reply. No reply, that is, save for an odd grin. No, smile on Shizune's face. A couple of seconds pass before Lily clicks that it isn't Misha behind her, but Shizune. Her momentary lack of surprise is replaced by a slightly bashful smile. For a few moments, the room is all but still and silent. Eventually, though, Shizune strides back to her workstation, and Lily begins typing once again. It only lasted a handful of seconds in all, but it feels like years of communication were made up for in that one silent exchange. Well, I did say that I wanted them to reconcile, and, well, it seems like they're on the path to that. There, finished. I lean my head back and rub my eyes to try and work away their weariness. Staring at that small and rather poor screen has taken its toll.
Excellent timing. The only thing left is to file these away, and I'll have my workload finished as well.
Good, I can pack up the brailler and put it away while you do that.
Thank you, Hisao.
Misha, are you and Shizune far from being done? I look around for the two as I replace the cover over the brailler, only to see them waiting at the door. I guess they're waiting for us. With a minimum of wasted time, we file and pack up everything that remains and join them. Thanks for waiting, you two.
We couldn't just take off without you, Hee-chan. You've been a great help.
Shizune nods approvingly, pleased with my efforts. I guess that's the last class representative work done and over with then.
That's right.
I'll miss you, Lily. I think it was fun working with you.
Thank you, Misha. It has been good working with you and Shizune.
Shizune thinks for a moment before formulating her response. It's not that she often communicates without thinking, quite the opposite, but this time it's even more considered than usual. ... Misha looks a little surprised before passing on the message.
Shizune says, you better do your work over there better than you did it here.
Far from taking offense, Lily giggled into her hand.
If that's the case, then please tell Shizune to give those still here a little more understanding in the future.
Competitive until the last. Maybe Shizune and Lily aren't so different after all. Also, I gotta say, it is so hard to do Misha's voice and then right after Lily's voice. They're pure opposites, at least in their voices. Because one of them is super loud and hurts a lot to do. And Lily's voices are like, silent and, soft. I try to whisper a bit while I'm kind of doing it, It is very hard to do. Dot dot dot.
Shishan said she Sorry. Shishan said she be checking to make sure you live up to your end of the promise. I just almost died.
Then that's how it will be. I'd better be off then. Goodbye, Shizune. Goodbye, Misha. Hisao. Lily takes a hold of my arm in hers, there being no need for a cane if I'm here to guide her. With a nod of farewell to the two, we set off out the door and make our way to the school grounds. As I turn to wave goodbye to them, I notice Shizune's gaze lingering on Lily. They may annoy each other, but family bonds aren't easily broken. Got all your papers sorted then?
Yes, they've all been filled out and hunted in.
On top of things as always, aren't you? She gives an earnest smile at the compliment, but it feels as if her happiness is just a veneer over the fact that she's fully aware of how much she's leaving behind. It reminds me of how she was like when I first met her. Always smiling, always that little bit aloof, always that little distance away from everybody. Even now, she still maintains that air around many others, especially those she's not close to. I had hoped that our time together would have changed that fact. Our pace slows, the two of us coming to a halt in the all but empty school gardens. Hisao is something that... Lily's words are cut short as I turn and wrap my arms around her, pulling her tight. I may not usually be given to such impulsive actions, but I just want to be close to her, even if it's the last time I'll be able to. All the other students have retreated to their dormitories and homes, only the ruffling of leaves in the breeze making any sound whatsoever. As I draw back, I can see she has dropped her carefully maintained smile. Her hand hesitates, wanting neither to leave nor to stay on my features. She's putting up a brave show, but her slight trembling gives her away. Lily may be able to control herself well, but even she can't hold her composure together now. This is the woman I've come to love, but also the one who, in all too short a time, will leave the country forever. I'm sorry, Hisao. It's okay, you've got your own life to lead after all. We walk up the hallway in the girls' dormitory hand in hand, our emotions by now largely quelled. Nevertheless, our hands grip each other's much more tightly than before. Faint, muffled voices can be heard from Lily's room, the origins of which aren't difficult to guess. The moment she opens the door, Hanako bursts through and wraps her arms around Lily, taking her very obviously by surprise.
Lily,
Hanako.
I'm gonna miss you, Lily.
As expected, she's on the verge of tears. Lily gently rubs Hanako's hair with her hand in response, then pulls back and gives a warm, reassuring smile. Looking beyond Hanako, Akira can be seen getting up from the side of Lily's bed and scratching her head. Her eyes turn from Lily and Hanako to me, a stilted, weak smile hanging on her face. I try to return a more genuinely happy look, but the result is probably just the same. So, everything set? Managed to hold back from killing Shizune? Mikami draws an amused giggle from her sister.
Yes, I have everything in order, and yes, I managed not to. Have you packed everything you need?
Got the 2 bags right here, but there's still some stuff left at Hakamichi's home. I can pick that up while we wait there for tomorrow evening's flight, though. Akira gives the 2 large black traveling blags on the floor a hearty pat. She probably came to help pack and make sure everything was in order on Lily's end before going together with her.
Lily, will you be okay over there?
I'll be alright, I assure you. I'll have Akira looking after me as well, and you know that she's reliable. But don't worry, Hanako. I have your phone number after all, so we can stay in touch. With Akira's help, I can send you things over the internet as well.
Hey, don't just use me because you don't know how to use a computer.
Hanako and Lily both giggle briefly, the mood lightening ever so little. That goes for you too, though, Hisao. I promise I'll contact you once I'm in Scotland. I know. I'll be looking forward to it. Her offer may be kind, but we both know that this is tantamount to breaking up. Neither of us has any illusions as to how well we'd manage a long-distance relationship. With nary a word of prompting, the four of us begin a long, solemn walk to the school gate. The numerous lamps scattered around the Yamaku grounds fail to do much more than provide pinpoints of light in an otherwise dense darkness. A car parked on the road just outside the school grounds comes into view, its shining black exterior reflecting the dimly lit lamps of Yamaku. I call out to Akira in an effort to alleviate a bit the heavy atmosphere. I'm not the only one who's like really scared right now, right? I mean, listen to the music, listen to like how everything is being said, all the scenes happening right now. This feels so end of the gamey, you know? I... That your car? What kind is it? Don't know much about cars, do ya? It's a Lancer Evo, solid and speedy. Well, it's not as ever common on my knowledge is off the mark. I've never really taken an interest in them. She gives a small sigh. She's been good. Pity I have to part with it tomorrow, just like the summer house. You guys were the last to visit before it changed hands. Turning back from my rather faulty attempt at small talk, I glanced at Hanako and Lily following behind us. By rights, Hanako should be leading Lily, but it's rather definitely the other way around as she clings tightly to Lily's arm. It's a depressing sight. So, I guess this is it. Indeed. Although the time for everyone to say their farewells is now, nobody really wants to take the first step. It's as if the longer nobody speaks, the better the chances of them simply not leaving.
Lily, do you really have to go?
I'm sorry, Hanako. I won't be leaving you forever, though. I can still call you. Hisao will still be here as well.
I nod, but Hanako just clutches all the tighter to Lily's arm. After spending so long without anyone to call family, it must be excruciating to have to say goodbye to the one person that was as close to a mother as anyone could have been in her life. Lily lets out a long, sad breath. All Akira and I can really do is stand by quietly on the sidelines, since the only person that can solve this would be Lily herself. Eventually, Lily pulls her arm from Hanako's grip and holds both of her shoulders gently. A much more decisive way of address than I've ever seen Lily take with her.
Hanako, remember when we first met? When you entered my room for the first time after overhearing my consoling of a friend, you didn't say a single word for the entire night. Even as I poured you tea and talked, you sat silently and simply listened to what I said. It took many quiet meetings like that before you began to open up to me, but as you began to, I felt some of the happiest moments I've ever felt. I didn't become your friend because I pitied you, Hanako. I became your friend because I knew you were hiding not just from me, but from everyone. Your ambitions, personality, interests, tastes. I didn't know any of them, and neither did anybody else. As you showed yourself to me, though, I began to realize the person that you were, and became sure that our meeting was a very special moment.
But
Lily cuts her words short as she brings her hand to Hanako's head and brushes her bangs to the side, gently pressing her lips to Hanako's forehead. As she pulls her head back, leaving Hanako all but speechless and her eyes moist, Lily beams a wide smile.
I believe you are a beautiful person, Hanako, and I am certain that you'll become a strong and confident woman. You are a very dear friend, and as someone who I love very much, just like Hisao, I will never forget you for as long as I live. I may be leaving, but you have your own life here to lead. Just as I do, you have your own friends and hobbies, and your own hopes after graduation. I want you to devote yourself to them, even after I'm not around anymore. That is why I think you'll be okay. Because you are your own self, with your own life. You yourself prove that to me.
Hanako lowers her head in embarrassment, but nods as she does so.
I understand. I know I have to say goodbye. I know you have to go your own way. But thank you, Lily, for everything. Thank you, Hanako. Will you be okay?
There are a few seconds of silence before the answer comes.
I will.
Lily smiles, undoubtedly at least partly in relief.
That makes me very happy, then. Goodbye. Goodbye, Lily. And farewell to you as well, Hisao.
Goodbye, I'll miss you. She pauses for a moment before walking up to me. Her right hand, outstretched in front of her, takes a hold of my shoulder. Her left hand slowly and daintily reaches toward my face, taking my cheek in her palm. For a while, she simply holds my face, her fingers just slightly moving to take in its contours. Usually her hand would be warm when doing such a thing, but the night air is giving her skin a cool edge. I'm not sure how long we stay like this, her clouded eyes pointed just below my own as she wears a wistful, almost distant smile. Eventually, though, I take her cold hand in mine. It's difficult to do so, but with a slight sigh, I gently remove her hand from my cheek. I hope you have a long and happy life, Lily, no matter where you might go.
Thank you. I'll make sure to.
She takes a long, trembling breath before turning slightly towards Akira's direction.
Akira.
Okay. With a nod, she takes Lily's hand and begins to guide her to the car parked outside the gates. They both walk slowly and deliberately, as if their movements have been rehearsed in advance. It's strange to feel like this now, watching somebody leave Yamaku. The feeling of unease I have now reminds me of the first time I walked through those black, wrought iron gates that always looked far too pompous for what they were. As they leave, all of us know full well that our lives are irreversibly changing. I'd always told myself that I just have to take life as it comes, but everything's changing so fast, so suddenly. In the end, Lily's an irreplaceable part of the lives of both Hanako and me. The noise of Akira opening the passenger door for Lily brings me out of my thoughts, her hand waving back as Lily gets in.
See ya, guys! Take care of yourselves!
Goodbye, Hanako. Goodbye, Hisao.
Hanako's hand quickly shoots up, her face brightened by her enthusiastic farewell.
Goodbye, Lily. Goodbye. See you, Akira, and goodbye, Lily.
The door shuts as we all put on our best happy farewell faces, Akira getting in the car herself and starting it up in short measure. Lily's hand can be seen waving through the tinted windows, both of our hands waving high as well. Just as every other time I've done such things, I can't work out precisely why I or Hanako waved to her, given that she'd never see us doing so. But it doesn't matter. Even after that black, shiny car goes down the hill and disappears into the dark night, we carry on waving and seeing Akira and Lily off. And then they're gone. A strange stillness takes over as our hands return to our sides. I don't quite know what I should do or how I should feel. In the end, we just stand there, silently staring down at where the car disappeared from sight.
Goodbye, Lily.
All I can do in response to her quiet, mournful goodbye is to place a hand on her shoulder. She looks at me for a few moments before looking back down the hill, secure in the knowledge that I'm still around for her. What we'll do from now doesn't seem all that uncertain. We all have our own ambitions now, just as Lily said. But even so, it feels like there's a certain missing part in both of our lives now. Something that can't be replaced. Oh my god. Okay, so... Okay, so it's not the end. That's not the end. It's not the end yet. Okay. Ugh. You have no idea how scared I was that that was the end. Right there. Oh my god. I came so close to crying there. Oh, I really thought that was just like the ending. Right there. It could still just be the ending. Right here, right now. But you know, I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna say that it isn't. I'm gonna say that we still got at least one more episode left out of this. Oh my god. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Katawa Shoujo. And I hope to see you next time where... I came really close to crying there. I hope to see you next time where... I don't know, maybe we can get a good, happy resolution out of all this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.